Hey, how's it going everyone? Isn't here today bringing some more Final Fantasy VII Remake news and discussions. And today we're going to be talking about the topic of whether Yuffie, Kisaragi and Vincent Valentine, two optional characters in the original Final Fantasy VII game, will still be optional characters in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, or whether they will be integrally and organically tied into the story. So firstly, these were the only two optional characters in the original game which were really well tied into the story if you were to get them. Yuffie was someone that was obtainable after the Mithril Mines, where you could find her in the forest randomly in a battle, and you would have to answer certain questions in certain ways to be able to get her to join your party. And Vincent, he was someone available in the Shinra Mansion in Nibelheim after you first went there. Now in terms of their story relevance, since the expansion of the Final Fantasy VII universe through the compilation, both through games that take place before and after, a movie and other novels, Yuffie and Vincent have become integrally tied into the story. Vincent plays a very huge role, or relation to very huge roles in the game, in regards to his relationship with Lucrezia and Hojo, especially before Final Fantasy VII, and how that all ties into Sephiroth, as well as Vincent's role having chaos in him and sort of the significance of chaos in the world of Gaia and the livestream. I won't say much more details just so I keep it as spoiler free as possible. And then Yuffie's also had a great role as becoming one of the members of the team, and also popping up in things like Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, as well as Crisis Core as well. So they're both quite integrally tied characters, and with the Final Fantasy VII Remake being a game that is apparently going to be expanding upon a lot of things, I feel like this is the perfect time that if they're mandatory, it will be able to expand on them a lot more, and having them as optional characters will somewhat tie the team down and actually create some possible problems or slow down in terms of the production of the game. So what I mean by this is, with the original Final Fantasy VII game, we were looking at pre-rendered backgrounds with fixed camera angles, so it was simply the asset of having just a character model in the party member on screen. So for example, during story moments, it would simply be adding extra story through text dialogue, and simply through having other characters interacting with them by just having the model turn around and face them. But now with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, we're going to be having full-on cutscenes, voice animation. Again, the motion capture of a lot of these characters' facial expressions and stuff is not something that you can sort of just simply add a character model into a story cutscene and have it work out. You're going to have obviously different camera angles moving depending on the characters that are being talked to, character relations and interactions. Again, we're going to be seeing new voice dialogue being made through all these characters, and if they're just optional, all that will disappear. There's also, again, the issues of being trying to able to make alternative cutscenes for all the moments in the game, depending on whether you have Yuffie and Vincent, or maybe even just have Yuffie or Vincent and vice versa. Because if they're both in the cutscene and you only have one of them, then they have to create a whole new cutscene dependent around that. So again, this is something that's much harder to work around in a game like this that is sort of having quite cinematic aspects to it. And again, this is something that was very much able to be done with the original Final Fantasy VII game. Now in any case, because they're expanding on the story, I think having them in will integrally be able to help expand upon other things like Sephiroth within the core game, even if certain parts of the compilation may not canonically actually work out or work in regards to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But continuing on with some information that we've heard about whether they'll be optional or mandatory in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, there's been some information that's recently been posted on Reddit by someone who claims that they have a source from someone who works in the journalism games industry, specifically Japanese games, and this person has provided them information on Final Fantasy VII Remake before that was point-to-point accurate, and they've also provided this person a lot more information about the Final Fantasy VII Remake going forward. Now this person has specifically stated first and foremost that this information may not be accurate, and they have received some information from their source in the past that is actually not being accurate, but specifically they've received information accurate pertaining to the teaser trailer State of Play. So I'd like to say it's best to take these as some potential ideas as opposed to fact and set in stone, but they're very cool regardless. So just reading over this, he said, Yuffie and Vincent will be much more organically tied into the story. Said that even Yuffie is a mandatory character, the window you can obtain her is optional. Can range anywhere from Junon region to Rocket Town. She's obtained via side quest early, but an automatically triggered event later if you do not have her in tow. I think we all figured the two were obviously going to be mandatory characters, since they've been included in just about all Final Fantasy VII related media since the original game. but I find the Yuffie stuff interesting, if real, and I'm not sure how hard that will be to program something like that into a game. That's really cool. So hearing, at least from this, taking it as an idea per se, rather than a leak specifically, that both these characters may be or should be organically tied into the game, but Yuffie may be someone that is partly optional, in the sense that in terms of when you get her and how you get her is optional, but from a certain point onwards she will automatically come into the game, where it says here an automatically triggered event later if you do not have her in town. Now, seeing here that it's mentioning you can get her optionally anywhere between Junon region to Rocket Town, I recall there was some bit of time frame between that, at least a good solid few hours within the first disc. So it'll be interesting to sort of see, you know, sort of if this does actually come to be a reality, how it may tie into the story depending on when you get her. If you get her earlier on, will there be a whole different sort of story, cinematic or story sort of bringing her into it, and then there may be cutscenes throughout that part up until Rocket Town, where these are optional cutscenes specifically for if you've already gotten her. And then depending on where you get it in between, how much of those cutscenes may you get? Or is it more so that she may sort of take a backstage between those two parts of the game, and after Rocket Town she will be throughout the story, given these are parts where no matter what she will be in your party. So it's all really interesting to look at this as an option. I personally feel that these characters should, or I hope that they will be mandatory in the game. Again, one, because I feel like from a story aspect it's awesome to have them there, and two, because I feel like from a programming aspect and time wise, at least to my knowledge, is instead of spending that time creating all these different alternative cutscenes, they could be spending that time investing it into a lot more of the game and expanding that game even further, even going into more story things related to Yuffie and Vincent. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts below. Do you think they will be optional, or do you think they will be now organically and mandatorily tied into the game? And also, what are your thoughts on this sort of leaked rumor? I think it's very interesting. It's a cool idea, and hopefully, depending on how things go with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I hope that Square Enix will do a great job of tying Vincent and Yuffie into Final Fantasy VII. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts below. Feel free to stay up to date on more Final Fantasy VII Remake news and discussions too. And yeah, until the next video, stay spot up.